All right, cool. All right, I'm going to go over something. I'm going to go seven-figure selling, right? What do you think that means?
Getting your volume in the millions?
Yes. I want to get your sales up. Who wants to sell more stuff, right? Super simple. So that's important to understand. And I'll come back to something else in a second here. But there's this thing called the trifecta of influence. You might know what that is? I taught on it years ago. Trifecta of influence.
Is that like who you surround yourself with?
Not exactly. That's kind of like what they are looking for in you. So if you had to look at, do people go with the nicest agent? No, right? So you have someone who's super nice. They're a great agent. Talk to them 15, 20 times. They're very nice, but I'm not going to do business with them. Does that make sense? Why? That does not mean they're competent, right? So like, I don't want a nice agent. I don't want a nice lawyer. Okay, there's a lot of lawyers who are really good, but I don't want to hang out with them. I just want a really badass lawyer in the courtroom. Does that make sense? Like, I don't need to be a friend with them. I want somebody who's going to give me what? A competitive advantage in the courtroom, which is what you want, which is what anybody wants in my insurance agent, in my stockbroker, in my real estate agent. I want somebody who's competent, who's very good at what they do, right? And so there's three main things. Number one, what do you think the most important thing is when looking at an influence or working with somebody as an agent or somebody big? Confidence, charisma, what else? What's bigger than that?
Leadership, knowledge of the market, expertise.
What's everybody scared of the most? Right? No, the people, they're looking for trust. Right? The most important thing that is the number one part of the trifecta of influence is trust. So what does that mean? They got to know that they can trust you. Now, trust comes in multiple different layers here. Trust, number one, what do you think number one obviously is honesty, right? So we'll talk about that, which I would also label that different word, which is what? Integrity, right? They're gauging you based on your integrity. Now, integrity, does that mean you're lying? Integrity means what?
You do what you say.
You're going to do what you said you would do. And so what do most agents not do? That. They don't do anything they say they're going to do. They say, I'll call you back. They don't call you back. I'm going to send you the home details. They don't send it there. Agents are infamous for doing this because they don't follow through what they're supposed to do, right? That's an integrity thing. Does that make sense? Number two, so that we'll call it honest integrity. Number two, they'll talk about is trust would be competency. So that would be things like what? Can this person advise me and guide me through the process? And they're looking specifically at your knowledge. Now, what do you think gauges, what are they using to gauge knowledge with? Instinct's a good one I put out. What do you think drives the instinct? What's moving the instinct behind the scenes? It's your language. So if I talk language that shows I have expertise, what does that do? It builds trust, right? And it gives me traction in that. And so they're gauging you based on your language and how you speak and how you talk about what? The market, things that are going on. What do most agents, average agents, what are they speaking in terms of the marketplace? Generalities. That was the exact word I was looking for. So most agents speak in generalities. Okay, so they're not really coming across as an expert in most cases because they're speaking in generalities. Why? They don't know, right? They're not taking time to study the market, know the market. The ones that study the market, know the market, they know details, okay, about how many properties go under contract last 7 days. And so if you want to be able to build trust, right, through language and having the way, my first coaches taught me this a long time ago. His name was Harold Ware. He said the same thing, that basically language is how people are going to follow. So if I can create a different language and speak a different language in terms of data and numbers, I create my own sandbox as an agent. Now I'm an expert who's in a different world than anybody else. Does that make sense? And that's why it's so important to have detailed specifics on both listing side, buyer side, to understand. So what are things like that? What's an easy thing for you guys to use? Market stats, number one, right? Two different ones. Number one's like what closed last month, right? Fresh ones off the books in terms of what happened. Anybody know the numbers from last month? Who knows them off the top of their head?
For what?
Closed sales, condos, things like that.
Sales were up a little bit for single family. They were down a little bit for condos.
Down a lot for condos.
Yeah, pending sales were down 40%. I think closed sales were down 11%.
11% for condos, right? Prices down too, significant. Prices down 11%.
Yeah, 11 point something.
And so
That's crashing.
home sales up a little bit in terms of numbers, prices down, both median and average, right? And so I need to have that ability to do what? Anybody ask you how the market, what do most agents say? I've said this a million times. Oh, it's good, right? They say, oh, it's good, right? But nothing specific. Well, actually, it's pretty good. You know, sales were actually up last month in terms of residential sales, actual numbers, but prices are down a little bit, down 3%. But the good news is pending deals are up, highest it's been since March 2024. Did you know that? Nope. 40%. So that's one thing that's important to talk about with them, that I have what? Specifics. Good news is rates came back down this week, right? Went from 6.5 to 6.44. So they were yesterday, right? So now when you have that, and you can watch people in their eye when you talk about these specifics, what happens? Their eyes light up a little bit like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. Because if I want to be able to hack that, after number one, do what I said I was going to do. And what does that mean? If I say I'm going to call you in a week, what do? Call you in a week or before that time. That's the number one reason. The second phase, like what Ryan was talking about, is when they start judging you. So the cost of entry, barrier of entry, is do I show up with integrity? The second piece of that is what's my knowledge of the marketplace. How specific am I getting in both the presentation and listing side and also on the buyer side? Most realtors on the listing side show up with maze, it's like 4 printouts from Paragon and think they're going to be an expert. What does the consumer do? They don't believe you. And it comes across that you're not very professional in the marketplace because you don't have any detailed data that backs up your case. Does that make sense? That's why it's very, very important. My coach Harold said always overwhelm them with data, at least to have it. You don't got to present it in detail, but I want to have more data than they've ever seen in case I need it, just so that they know I have what? Data and knowledge in the marketplace. Super important there, okay? And I'll talk about the trust piece more in a second. Second piece of that, what do you think it is? Respect. They have to have respect in terms of, hey, this person's actually good at what they do, and I know they're an expert, and they have an experience in the marketplace that can help me. Now, how do I do that? These two are both connected, detail with integrity. Super important. I'm going to go over the whole thing, integrity, in a second. But then you know what? Market knowledge, experience. Ultimately, it's going to be what? Your story. Who I am, what I do, who we are. Thankfully, you guys can get a lot of respect through what we've done, what we've built here over the years. You're able to plug in and use that. A lot of that's on the presentation. But they're going to need to respect who? You. And for them to respect you, you got to respect you first. Meaning how I show up, the way I talk, the way I operate, how I carry myself, the language I speak, the tone I use, the energy and pace I use, all that stuff matters. If I show up and I'm very slow and I'm very shy, what happens to respect? There's none, right? They don't see it because they don't see you as an authority in the marketplace in terms of real estate, guiding them. No one wants a weak-ass agent, period, okay? And some will claim that a little bit, but they end up running over and not liking on the back end. Make sense? So if I get a very strong personality, I got to be able to make sure I'll be able to gain that respect. And that sometimes means having to challenge them. Does that make sense? And you'll find if I challenge them correctly with the right way, with the right data and the right integrity, I can respect very quickly for a very long time. Make sense? Third piece here, and this is where you got to tie all this together, I must have rapport. What does that mean? You have to have some type of connection, right? People like them. And so I didn't have the ability to do what? Connect through sales IQ, which are things like, hey, who are you? What do you do? What's your background? And I want to then find ways to be able to find people in ways that I can what? Connect. How do I do that? Well, I find a way to actually like them. I tell you guys, I have a hack I use. No matter what state they're from, I typically know someone in the business from that state through just the years. And so I think like North Carolina. I was talking to my buddy Jason Brandt last night. He's from Greensboro. And all of a sudden, boom, they're from North Carolina. I automatically connect them to Greensboro. Hey, my great friend Jason lives in North Carolina too. And all of a sudden now I have what? Rapport. And this is the simplest way to do it is have a real reason to connect with people. Makes sense? And I want to tell a story about that. And whatever it is, people like them. Just think about that, understand that, okay? That means sometimes you might have to be what? A chameleon. I don't call that fake, right? Doesn't mean I find something that we both like at some point in some way. I don't got to pretend or fake it. You just got to adapt to make sure it is. And how do I do that? Well, I just put what's important to them in the forefront of what's important to me. Does that make sense? And so that just comes to communication. That's sales 101. That's just very, very easy skill set. But you have to get very good at that and have to do what? Maintain rapport too. It's one thing to get rapport. It's another thing to maintain rapport. And so that comes through what? Not losing trust, not losing respect, making sure I maintain that through the whole process. Does that make sense, you guys there? And so that's the key part. Now, what's the key part of influence? It really comes down to all these that you have to keep the whole time. What is it? I mentioned earlier, integrity, right? We talked about a lot the past couple weeks over time. That's the key thing, right? So what does integrity mean? Number one, you keep your promises. Number two, you do what you said you were going to do. Number three, you do it in the time frame you said you would do it, right? If I said I'm going to call you in a week, I do it before a week, no matter what. Or I do it that same exact week. If I tell you I'm going to call you back today, what do I do? Call you back to today. Now, what if I can't remember a lot of these things?
Put in your calendar.
Calendar, to-do, CRM. CRM is the absolute best way to do that. That way I have it, it's documented, because if they think, well, you didn't call me, actually I did call you, let the voicemail and text message you on, Wednesday the 23rd at 5:03 p.m. I've done that many a times, right? For sellers, somebody who do not believe that. It felt like we were out of trust, but I had it documented and logged. Guess what? Showed them that. Now I'm back in trust and rapport again. Does that make sense? That's why it's very important to have that logged in there too. Number 4, you are in communication if you can't complete it in time. So if I have to get them a report or get them something or whatever it is, I can't get it done in time, I communicate, let them know, hey, look, I can't get it done tonight, but I'm going to have that to you first thing in the morning. Is that okay with you? Yes. That helps me maintain integrity with them because now it looks like I didn't just drop the ball and no show. Does that make sense? Super important piece there. Last couple ones here. You go all the way without cutting corners. This is important because they notice if you what? Half-ass CMA, half market update, anything in terms of how I'm following up, it does make a big difference. And they're looking for a reason. The problem with this most of the time is the way that consumers looking at realtors, right, through what they call like rose-colored glasses. You can do something pretty good, but how do they view it? Badly, right? Because why? Their preconceived notion, they're very skeptical about you, they think bad about realtors, and so now what's happening is they have a confirmation bias. They're not looking for the positive in you, looking for the negative in you, so what happens is their confirmation bias sees something that's neutral as negative. I'll say it again, their confirmation bias sees something as neutral as negative, and so we got to be very good that we're constantly maintaining the trust piece and the integrity piece in how I do it with them, and that comes through this following through what I said I do, and I do it without cutting corners. You create structures to fulfill your promise and complete your work. This is important. I create structures to fulfill promise and complete your work. How do I do that?
Write it down.
What's better than that?
Use the CRM.
Yes. I want just to say that Harold guy taught me. He said systems work, people don't. What does that mean? It means Jay don't ever go remember. But everybody that comes in here, in the beginning, what do they tell me? I remember all of that. I had this conversation. No calls in the CRM, what it is. Wow, I remember all the people I talked to. I show you my phone right now. I'm like, cool, show me your phone because there's no way to talk to 100-something people. And if you did talk to 100 people, guess what? You don't know who you talked to and when, and you don't know what the conversation was about. So it's totally pointless, right? You have to make sure you understand that systems work, people don't. The minute I can let go of that and I depend on the system, it frees up bandwidth in my mind. I don't need to remember anything about who I talked to or whatever it is. Does that make sense? Like, I don't need to have any bandwidth spent on remembering who to talk to. It needs to be to the task. I wake up, look at my computer, tells me who to call, and that's it. That's where you got to get to because it takes away from you got to remember stuff, and I need that bandwidth to focus on conversion. Does that make sense to you guys? And that comes through what? I'll call it database management and tasks. Super important, okay? We'll call it DBM, database management, tasks, and you can obviously do reoccurring tasks, whatever that is, makes a big difference as well. Make sense to you guys there? You create accountabilities with others, right? There's other ways you can do that. That could be anything from your physical side, right? Whatever it is, like we do in the gym in the morning. Guess what we did? We made memes about them and made fun of them, right? Which is what anybody would do because you're holding them accountable. And so it's super important to do there. And you want to have that because guess what happens next time they think about not coming? They don't want to get the memes and stuff, right? So you want to create that and it creates leverage for you to have that piece of integrity. Same thing, though, with your clients and make sure you're following through doing what you said you do, right? Last one here is you trust that all is going well even when it's not. You trust all is going well even when it's not. What does that mean? If I have integrity with myself, I know it's going to work itself out, right? But the problem is most people don't have what? Integrity. With who? Themselves. And so that whole thing, the trust thing, guess who it comes down to the most? You. Because you know, if you follow through with stuff, guess what? The more I follow through with what I said I was going to do, the higher my trust in myself is. So if I get into a, let's say, a groove where I'm making myself promises and I don't follow through with it, what happens to my trust? What happens to my confidence? Right? And so I have to make sure, number one, I'm in trust, and number one, I'm in integrity with myself. That's how I build trust, and it all starts with what? Yourself. Everything starts with you and how I show up, what I do, and I follow through. And there's times that people are in and out of integrity. And so I want to, number one, put the mirror on and have it be aware. And so here's the thing. I want you to ask yourself this. Where am I out of integrity? Right? Where in my life right now am I out of integrity? And so that's super important to look at, which is important, right? Where am I out of integrity? So ask yourself that question of like, hey, where do I need to double down on this? And that could be anything from my physicality, how I'm operating at home, how I'm operating in business. Am I making my dials? Am I not making my dials? Am I doing what I said I do? Am I calling my clients? That's super important. We're going to build all this up into clients here in a second, what that means and how to make sure we increase conversion, right? But this all part is what matters the most to be able to build the future stuff. Make sense? Another great thing kind of goes with, if you want people to stop resisting you, then stop resisting them. What does that mean? If you want people to stop resisting you, stop resisting them. What does that mean? Scared to talk to them. All right, so if I'm scared to talk to them, what's going to happen from them? They're going to be scared to talk to me. It's just how humans are. They react. And so we tend to mirror All right, they tend to mirror us, and we tend to what? Project. And so it's very important to look at. We project most of the time judgment. This is a great one to kind of just add in here from just going back and studying. People are doing the best they can in the moment, and all my suffering is created by my judgment of them. Say it again. People are doing the best they can in the moment, and all my suffering is created by my judgment of them. What does that mean?
Taking things personally.
Yes, a lot of times somebody's angry or they say something wrong, whatever it is, and so we don't know what's going on in their life, what could have happened, right? Talked to a lady who was kind of mean on the phone yesterday as a seller, and she was like very standoffish to me. I was just kind of calm and collected. She was like, what do you want? You know, and she was somebody who had expired, but she had called in, and I was trying to figure out what's going on. And she's very mean and standoffish. As I get further in the conversation, guess what I find out? I don't know, call it her sister's grandson. What is that? I don't know if that, whatever that would be, right? Nephew was in a car wreck and is in a coma. So obviously, we don't know about that type. And so that's why it's so important to come from curiosity and not judgment, which allows us to maintain, we're able to stay in rapport. Does that make sense? One of the hardest things to realize is, here's the deal. You'll never be in true rapport if you're in judgment. So I have to make sure, and here's the deal. They could yell at you and say, what do you got to do? Just, hey, no problem. Appreciate that, Tim. Thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate that this morning, right? Can you tell me more about the situation? Whatever it is, you got to be this place where we used to call it unfuckwithable, right? No matter what they say, no matter what they do, you don't get triggered. The problem is most of us are so in this place being so close to triggered that every little thing sets us off, and all of a sudden we blow the entire thing. We lose rapport because we get triggered over small. We shouldn't get triggered over things. And so how do I get better at influence? Make sure I maintain rapport, even when they say that basically should trigger 9 out of 10 people. The elite don't get triggered. They maintain in a place of curiosity, not judgment. Make sense? Most of the time, for example, you have a seller who's mad at you or a buyer client who's mad at you. Whose fault is that? Ours, right? And it comes down to what? Typically, it's going to come down to the pre-frame or the expectations I set or didn't set for the client. And I may even set them, but if they didn't understand them and comprehend them, whose fault is that? Mine, right? And so I want to be able to be okay and say, how do I fix this and how do I learn from this lesson going forward? But I don't react going backwards. Most agents or average people react to whatever it is, and they get out of rapport, they have zero influence. Once you're out of rapport, you have no influence. Does that make sense? And so use this as a great reminder in terms of what you want to do in that part. So what's the next piece of the puzzle in terms of 7 figures? What do you think it is? So lead follow-up, right? So we build this. Obviously, maintain everything else as rapport on the front end, or making sure we're staying in these 3 pillars of influence, which is important. But through that, the big money's made in what? The follow-up. More money's lost in the follow-up than any part of the business. Everybody agree with that? And check it out. We know the data. Check this out. 44% of salespeople give up after the first conversation. So 44% of salespeople give up after what? 1 convo. Now, we're a little bit better than that, thankfully, because of how our structure is, where it kind of forces you to do that. But even now, there's a lot of people dropping the ball because just because you called them doesn't mean what? You had a conversation. And so that's important when you're looking at this next data I'm going to go through. So 44% stop after the first one, right? 92% of salespeople give up after the 4th conversation. So again, 92% of salespeople give up after the 4th conversation. So that's pretty crazy, right? And this is going to get to something that's pretty crazy. That's 92%, which means how many actually follow through? 8%, right? That number's going to mean something in a second. So they give up, we'll call it GU, after how many? The 4th conversation, which if you look at Boomtown, in many cases, what happens? They talk to them a few times, then they dump them out the bucket. And typically, if you look at it, there's not a lot of deep conversations about what they're having in there. There's like left a message, left a message, left a message, left a message. Of course, there's no text messages. Right? No emails, no specific anything that's detailed to them. And so what happens is you kind of fall in this pit right here, which is crazy. So and only 8% of salespeople have 5 or more conversations with a lead. This is national, right? And here's the crazier part. 81% of consumers, this is some real estate data here, say no 4 times before transacting. 81% of consumers say no 4 times before they say yes. It's crazy, right? And this could be in a personal face-to-face meeting as well, right? So you know you're going to get 4 objections at some point, statistically, 81% of the time. And this could be over multiple phone calls, could be a face-to-face appointment, okay? I got this data from Bill. It's pretty accurate in terms of where he came from, like that, but I don't want to go too deep on that. So what's the magic number here? 5, right? 5 detailed, what?
Conversations, text messages, emails.
Yes, detailed conversations. Now, where do the text message emails come through? Where do they come in this equation?
Some people don't answer their phones, some people answer emails and text.
I'm using text and email to get on the phone. Makes sense? The lady yesterday who was mean, she called in, I guess, missed it. I called twice, the phone wouldn't ring because I guess she had it blocked. And so guess what I said? Hey, so-and-so, this is Blake Sloan, just giving you a call. Please give me a call as soon as you get this. I'm going to give you guys a great voicemail to leave in a minute, too, that'll help you get more callbacks and answers, okay? That's important. So, I use the text to do what?
Get her to make a get on the phone.
Get in the conversation, okay? Now, I can send the text, and obviously you want to put your name in there. Why is that important? Because a lot of times Siri and some of the data that blocks stuff, it'll recognize the name, and it'll say maybe Tim when you call the next time. This is important that you have that in there and make sure you're calling from that same number, okay? That's where you're hacking through the system. But I'm also sending email right there as well. With the things you have in place right now, with tools we have, you can be able to say, hey, you know, Gemini, write me a quick email to Mary that I'm following up, whatever is blah, blah, blah. And it'll write the email, you copy and paste it, boom, send it in 2 seconds, right? That's the level we're at. Or there's another thing you use right now called Whisper, which I'll talk about. That's a little app you can use. It makes you talk and it formats it in a great way of just like a conversation. That's a little bit better than just the free stuff that comes on the computer. Okay? That way you can just talk to it, takes you 2 seconds, boom, and now it is. Does that make sense? So the magic number is 5. Check this out. Some data that Bill had from just years of data. So we know the magic number is 5. But you guys are right. 5 equals $107,000. What does that mean?
If you're one of the ones doing 5, you're going to make a whole lot more money.
The agent that follows up an average of 5+ conversations on every single lead, and that means conversations, not calls. With me on this? Conversations on every single lead makes an average of $107,000 more per year on average. Study they did through him, the coaching organization they were doing it through. They tracked it through hundreds of thousands of calls. And the difference was people that had 5+ conversations consistently with every single lead they had, which means what? They're going deep, not wide. A lot of agents tend to go so wide, you have way too many leads you're not talking to enough. Does that make sense? Right? Same thing on the recruiting side. It's going to take more than one conversation with these, right, to get them converted. And so I know they're going to say no 4 times. How many times realistically am I documenting 5+ conversations? What does the conversation look like? Well, in most cases, it'll be 2 minutes or more. That's the key part here. Okay? Something that's in depth about real estate. Hey, how's things going? What's going on? Right? All those things. With me on this? Now, that's the crazy part. And if you look at the life of a sale, I'll give you guys a little bit more data and I'll back this up. 2% of sales happen when, you think? First contact, right? 2% on the first contact. So we know if I'm going once, I'm not getting a whole lot. 3% on the second contact. With me on this? If I go deeper on this, 5% in the third contact. What are we up to now? 10. 9% on the fourth contact. Now we're up to what? 19%. Pretty crazy, right? So we're at 19% on 4 contacts, okay? I want to play the statistics and the data in my favor. Now, check it out. 81% of all transactions happen, you've probably heard this before, the 5th to the 12th contact. %of transactions after 5+ conversations that are 2 minutes or more. Make sense? Now, realistically, though, how many agents do you think consistently talk to them over and over and over for 2 minutes plus, 5+ times in a short period of time? Now, if I talk to them 5 times in 6 months, do they know who I am? Honestly, you think if I call somebody 5 times in 6 months, do you think they know who I am? No, not a chance in hell. Why? They have life and about 55 other agents calling them every single day. Okay, so we are in the cold calling capital of the world here. And they're calling just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people every single day, right? And so the reality is you got to make sure that I'm able to differentiate enough here within a shorter period of time for them to actually do what? Remember. Now, how do I increase the chance somebody remembers who I am? Yep, rapport helps too. That's a great one. I didn't think about that. But like, how do I increase this just systematically?
Constant contact.
After I talk to them, what do I do? Text message, right? And what do I say, Bobby?
I used to, on the first time talking with you,
Anytime.
just say, I'm just following up, this is Bobby, just following up with the conversation, and then iterate the conversation a little bit.
Hey, Bobby, it's Blake Sloan. Had such a great time talking to you on the phone just now, right? Hey, Bobby, Blake Sloan, it's so great talking on the phone. Just want to reach out to you, make sure I have my number. Save me in your phone as Blake Sloan, Myrtle Beach, so you knew exactly who to call when you need somebody who need help here in Myrtle Beach, especially when you guys come down in June. Make sense? I look forward to talking with you in the future. I'm going to set you up on your emails, whatever it is. Recap a bit of the conversation, and then make sure to have, why is that important?
They get to talk to so many people they want.
It's impressions, right? I was studying a separate thing that's separate from this. This morning. The guy who owns Red X was talking about this. But the average consumer, guess how many advertisements the average consumer in the United States sees per day right now? 300, what else? 1,000, what else? This is from Forbes magazine. I know this data for sure, exactly where it came from. I know the specifics on it. In the U.S., how many advertisements per day does the average consumer see? 3,000? 6,000 to 10,000 per day. Now, that includes all the Facebook scrolling, right? If you see an ad every third post, I believe is the data right now, right? Every third story or every third post, you see an advertisement. Every billboard you go by, everything else you see, everything in your email, everything in your Google AdWords, all that stuff you're seeing, 6,000, 10,000. Now, why do you not notice them? There's this thing called reticular activator, right? There's a whole study about this. So your reticular activator tunes out everything except what? What it thinks is relevant. And it does that as a survival mechanism so that your brain doesn't get overloaded and it can filter out what's not important. Keep in mind what's important for your survival. That's literally exactly what it's for, right? Yep, just like pregnant women notice other pregnant women. That's what if I just buy a red Honda Accord, guess what I see everywhere? Red Honda Accord. Were they not there before? They were there, you just didn't notice them until you had that reason for it to be relevant towards you. Does that make sense? And so in a world that there's so much noise out there, you have to make sure you're relevant and you're sticking out. Well, through that, I want to make sure I increase my impressions enough where every single time I talk to them, I'm adding it what? My name, who I am, my number. And so eventually they won't remember, hey, what's that guy's name? And I want them to type in what in their phone?
Lake Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach. They don't even know my name, right? They can type in Myrtle Beach, and guess what? All of a sudden, boom, mine shows up. Like, this guy sent me 8 different text messages in a row. I didn't respond to him. I feel kind of bad. Maybe I should give this guy a call. Right? On the listing side, what do I save it as? What do I say? Save me as Blake Sloan sold every single time. Right? Save me as Blake Sloan sold in your phone. That way, when you are ready to get your property sold, you know exactly who to call and exactly who to search. Super simple, right? But I do this through repetition. Why? Because there's so much noise out there. People are getting thousands and thousands and thousands of ads a day. Different things. I got to make sure I differentiate. Now, if I want to add 2 impressions for the cost of 1, what do? I want to double my impact in the same conversation. What can I do? Chris, what do you think it is?
For the conversation, usually what I do, like I'll leave a detailed voicemail, like if I'm trying to call. I usually.
Well, let's say I had a great conversation with them, right? So, almost an email too. Why?
Because sometimes they don't always check text. Sometimes they'll just be quick scroll through emails. Like I have people that just answer email, they don't answer text because they just think it's spam.
Yep. Let me just make it simple. It makes it twice as likely he or she remembers who I am because I just hit him with 2 different impressions within 5 minutes. And guess what they think? Wow, this fucking dude's on top of it. Where most agents are not on top of it. So it's very easy to be better than everybody else. You just got to do what? The extra little bit. But what's the problem? 8 out of 10 people here, probably 9 out of 10 people aren't going to do it, even after they just told you, right? And lots of you broke it down. Why? Because it's that important. So they see it, boom, Now I got 2. It doubles the chances that person remembers my name. Does that make sense? In addition to that, if they could delete their phone messages, which some people do, they can go back to their email and type in what? Myrtle Beach, right? Or sold. Boom, there's that guy that won't leave me alone again. And all of a sudden, you earn the right. And I was telling this to a lot of people recently, and I've learned this over the last couple of years, you have to earn the right today for people to answer the phone for you. I do it when people try to sell me stuff. I don't answer it until they call me like 10 or 15 times. And then I answer it, and then I'll maybe talk to them about it. Just is what it is, right? Because you're so overwhelmed with so much stuff, or I'm busy, or I forget. I have good intention to call them back, but I don't call them back. And so, this guy's called me 4 times. Probably should answer the phone. Make sense? And what it is. And super important. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had a call with a bookkeeping company that was just kind of looking to do some stuff off-site. And I was on a Zoom that ran late. He called me for the call. I missed a call. And guess what else? Guess what he did? He double called me. Boom, back to back. I'm like, this must be the guy from the thing. Guess what I did? Answer the call. So double dialing does work. He did it to me yesterday, and it worked. Boom, got on the phone with him, went through a part of it, and he sent me a proposal today. But that's important. Don't be afraid to call back, especially if you got a scheduled call with somebody. And the next thing he should have done was text message me, and that's kind of what helps. Does that make sense? But this stuff matters. But I know 81% of the sales happen after the 5th contact. But what do most agents do? They stop. Why? Give me examples. Why do you guys think agents don't make the calls? Discouragement. Why? Scared. Okay, give me more about that.
They just were like, they're not ready now. Some people have the process of like, they're not ready now. Like, what's the point of following up with them and all of that? But they don't see the benefit.
Yeah, if they think there's no point in following, they need to get out of sales. But what's the biggest reasons? There's 2 reasons. What's the number 1 reason?
Confrontation.
Rejection. Confrontation. Why? But if I'm talking to Bobby, I talked to Bobby 3 or 4 times, right? Why wouldn't I call him the 5th time?
People are scared that they're going to be bugging the people and they're going to pick up and be angry, I guess.
Why would you feel like you're bugging them? That's the thing. Most agents don't call after the 3rd time because they don't know what to say. They're like, man, I just called this guy or this lady 3 different times. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to talk about. And so they just don't make the call. They avoid it. It pops up in your CRM. You know you should probably call them. What do? You skip right over it. Man, I'm going to get them next week. And then what happens? You skip over it. I'm going to get them next week. And all of a sudden, it's been a month. They came in town and bought with somebody else. All because the agent doesn't have the know-how or know exactly what to say. Everybody agree with that? Second reason, what do you think the second reason is the biggest reason? They're disorganized in their follow-up. They don't even know who to call, and they don't have the things in the place to make sure they're calling them. And so the number 1 reason is they don't know what to say. Right? Everybody make sense to you? The 4th, 5th, 6th calls, you can get like, not really sure what to say. So what do you think will fix that? How about a really good script? So you say, Blake, give me a really good script for this. I'm glad you guys asked. For good enough, but guess what I got for you guys? A really good script that you can call them 55 times. It doesn't matter. So there's no excuse not to do it, right? Except just have to have the discipline to do it. And just a universal script you can call them multiple times, okay? And so it's called the Ultimate Conversion Dialogue. Super simple. All you're going to do is rotate one of the 5 things over each call after you follow up. And you're going to reference one thing from your previous note. Does that make sense? So I'll give that to you guys to have. Here, I'll make sure you guys have it so you can see it and what it is. But, what is this? Okay. We got the long-term call, right? Conversion call here for you guys. I have it. So I share with you guys in the groups a Google Doc, right? So you can read it. So I'll say, hey, is this Anthony? Hey, Anthony, this is Blake Sloan with Sloan Realty Group. How you doing? And they're going to say what?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hey, good. How are you? And what are they thinking?
Oh, I know this guy knows him. I know him.
In the beginning, they may say, I don't know who this guy is, right? I'm not sure who this guy is. Who are you, right? And I'm going to say, hey, I'm calling you back just like I said I would. What is that? Why is it in there? Accountability, which is also what? Integrity. The first piece of integrity is what? Trust. Doing what I said I do. This is all subconscious stuff here, which is high-level psychology. You with me on this? Hey, Jeremy, I'm calling you back just like I said I would. And now, guess what? I'm building trust and rapport through that process. And I want to confirm your plans to buy or sell since our last conversation. Now I'm talking to them, let's say 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever it is. You guys with me on that? And so they're going to say, well, what? What do you think they're going to say?
Well, 5 to 6 months.
Yeah, we're still looking. We're not really sure. They're not going to tell you, yeah, dude, I'm going to write the check right now, right? Why? Because people are what? Scared to be sold, right? And so that's just intro with that. You told me last time you were planning to move down here in July, right? Whatever it is. Or let's say you told me last time you're moving to Florida, Jeremy on the listing side, by August. Are those still your plans? Now, what do I got to make sure I do here? This is important. I have to have good notes. Why?
So you can work on that.
I have to keep trust and rapport. So as I go back and reference something, I have trust, which is what? Competency. With me on this. And I have rapport because this guy remembered what I was on, and I don't remember who he is, but he remembers what I'm doing, which means what now? He's legit because he obviously knows my story. Does that make sense? I've had multiple phone calls recently. I've called them several leads back just from our main bucket, and I had notes in the previous call. They have no clue at first. They don't remember anything about it. And I reference, hey, you're still moving back to Ohio, and all of a sudden what happened to the tonality? It changed. It happened yesterday. Guy was actually listed with us, ghosted, had a medical thing. Then he called me, didn't really know what I was going on. I called him again. I said, hey, man, are you still moving back to Ohio? Thank God that was in the notes where Joe talked to him 3 months ago. And so now he's like, boom, instant report back. Now he's actually being amiable on the phone versus being defensive. Does that make sense? That's why the notes are so important to have there. And that's super simple from my initial phone call. Make sense? So, hey, you told me last time you were planning to move to Ohio by the end of this year. Is that still your plan? Yes. And you said you were buying because you want to get back closer to family. Is that correct? What am I doing here?
You're building rapport, but also that you're listening to them.
Yes, I'm building rapport. I'm showing I'm competent, right, which is trust. And I'm earning their respect because why?
Because you know something about
I know something that's actually relevant to them, so I'm not some freaking cold caller calling them off the street. That gives me instant, right, credibility, instant trust, which is what the trifecta is. Does it make sense? This is why all this stuff is a pre-frame for you guys to see the script here. Make sense? Now, they're going to say, yeah. I'm going to say, great. Baron, I was thinking about you because of the changing market conditions, increase or decrease in interest rates, new properties that just came on the market you might be interested in, homes like yours in your neighborhood that just sold, or some success stories of clients who just bought and sold. What are those there? Those are talking points. Now, if you go through and you count them, how many are there? 5. What's the magic number? 5. Simple for you guys, right? All you got to do is pick one of the 5 and just call them 5 times. You guys with me on this? And it's universal on both sides. Or you can say, Ryan, I was thinking about you. We just had the busiest week in MLS last week since March 2024. And properties moving like crazy, which means the prices might go up a little bit, right? I'm curious, do you still want to move by August or September, right? Whatever it is. You still want to move to Myrtle Beach, down here to Myrtle Beach, the Surfside of the river by August. Or did you want to start the process, I can't read what it says, or did you just want to start the process at that time? This is a universal script for you guys to do what? Follow up. Does it work for sellers? Yes. Work for buyers? Yes. It's magic, right? Super important. It says, hey, do you want to move by August or do you want to start the process by that time? Most of the time they're going to say what? They want to move by that point because they're actually already in the process. How do I know that? They're looking at homes and they're searching for the values and things like that, right? They'll say yes. Fortunately, to get you one step closer to Myrtle Beach by August, all we need to do is set up a quick 10-minute or 15-minute strategy session that myself or my team, I can say basically you, so I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Won't that be great? Yes. What am I trying to do there? Book an appointment with him. Book an appointment, book an appointment, book an appointment, right? If they didn't do it last few times, they will do that. Now, if they're already signed with me, I can say, let's get an appointment, let's look at your home search in the back end and see if I can make that any better for you, right? I want to get some way to get face-to-face with them. Does that make sense for you guys? Super important piece here, what that is. What works better for you, today or tomorrow? Today at 5:30 or today at 6:30? Which one works better for you? Make sense? And so you have the universal script you're able to go back through, and you can call them every single time. Does this work in 1 month? Yes. Does it work in 2 months?
Yeah.
Does it work in 3 months? Yes. All you got to do is change the middle out here. And if you don't feel comfortable saying one of these 5 things, what do you do?
Practice role play.
Pick out something in the market. Hey, Jeremy, right? Sales were actually down for condos last month. I was thinking about you. Sales were down for condos last month. They're losing value, and I noticed you have a condo. Last thing I want you to do is wait till August and lose another $15,000 in value. Does that make sense? I'm curious if I could save you 15% right now and sell it earlier for more money. Is that something you're interested in? Yes. Okay, well, cool. You know what's going to work best for you probably and get you just one step closer to saving you $15,000? We need to probably set up a quick strategy session for 15 minutes, hop on a quick Zoom. I can get you set up for that, at least get you a game plan to save that money right now. Does that make sense? Yes. Boom. What do I do? Just rebook somebody or nurture somebody who wasn't ready before, but I'm building the rapport with them. There are some people that you can close the first time or the second time or third time, but some of them take what? Time and nurturing. That's what I was really, really good at whenever I had anybody, let's say 1 out of 10, maybe 2 out of 10 didn't sign a lot of times or weren't ready. I would hammer everybody. And eventually I was just so consistent and I'd call them back. Because what do you guys say? Hey, just calling you back like I said I would. That's super simple, right? If one gets mad and 9 others don't and they buy with me or sell with me, is that worth it? Absolutely, right? So this is a powerful script. I want you guys to print it, keep it with you at your desk. Does this solve some problems for you? The second thing you got to solve here is your discipline in your database, right? We'll call it database discipline. That means what? Everyone must have a task or to do at all times. And then every day you log in and you do what? Yes. The 2 reasons people don't call is they don't know what to say when they follow up. Number 2, they're disorganized and distracted in follow up, which is so true, right? You have to make sure you're not disorganized, and that's important. Make sense? And here's the thing. I want you guys to write this down too. Add this. If you do not bring value to every single call will become more uncomfortable to you. If you don't bring value to every single call, every call will become more uncomfortable to you. Well, so what do I do for sellers? What can I do for sellers, Tim?
You know, you can give market data.
Yeah, hey, I logged right into the back end of our system. If I did it right, I already have their home search set up. I click in what? Their property search takes me less than 5 seconds, and what do I go to? The pending section of neighborhood. Tim, I'm not sure if you saw the 3 pending properties in your neighborhood. Just want to make sure you saw those came up. One was at 300, one was at 315, one was at 289. Did you know about those? No, they didn't. Awesome, man, no problem. I just want to let you know I'm watching out the market for you so that when you are ready, have everything you may need. By the way, you go right back to this. Does this make sense? Bring some value. Hey, Tim, the reason I was calling, I was thinking about you because I was looking at some comps in your neighborhood today, and there's 3 properties that just went pending in your neighborhood. You know about those? Boom, what I bring you here? Value, right? Which is trust, respect, and rapport. I said I'd update them in the marketplace. Now I'm actually doing it. Does it make sense? It takes me less than 3 seconds if I did it right and had their seller search set up correctly. Okay? Your past client, guess what you do? Same thing. Hey, I was looking at some properties in your neighborhood. There's 3 that just went pending. Just want to know if you guys knew about that. If you want, I can do a free updated CMA for you, let you know kind of what your real-time equity is. Whatever it is. Does that make sense? Questions about that? There's a couple more scripts in the bottom I have for you too. Like one that says we're just going to wait. It says, I think we're just going to wait. Hey, I can totally appreciate you want to wait until August to purchase a home or sell a home. I'm curious, what do you think is going to be different at the beginning of August than it is now in terms of time to buy? What could they say? Credit be better? That's a probably legit one. What else is there?
Money.
At that point, be quiet, right? Most times it's going to be like, I'm not ready. And they'll tell you whatever. Sit back and be quiet. Let them answer. And I'll say, hey, so Jeremy, can I ask you a question? And you basically know, do you know what's happened to the numbers of homes over the course of the last 6 months? And they'll say what? No, inventory's actually increased significantly, which means more competition for home sellers like you. And I'm not sure if you saw the projections about interest rates. They may potentially go back up due to inflation, right, from the war. The Federal Reserve actually just, they may raise the rates going forward. And so if there's more competition, higher rates, what do you think that does to your home value, Jeremy? Decreases. So if I wanted to sell my house for the most amount of money, would it make sense to do it now? It makes sense to do it 6 months when the property's worth less money. Now, right? And what am I doing here?
Creating urgency.
I'm educating them, right, through data, which is earning trust, respect, and rapport. I'm not pressuring them, I'm just asking what? Simple questions. And I can do this 2 or 3 or 4 times. Now I'm not just some person saying, hey, you ready to sell yet? Ready to buy yet? Ready to sell yet? Ready to buy yet? This is how you come through and make a difference in how you phone call and how you have a conversation with them. Does that make sense? So that's the crazy part. That's the key part. And here's the other piece. I want you guys to write this down. Which agent wins a follow-up, you think? Which one wins a follow-up game? That's a good point. But let's say you better assume that there's 3 to 4 other agents calling your leads every single day. At least. Everybody agree with that? There's 3 to 4 agents calling your leads every single day. And so which one do you think wins the follow-up game? It's actually not rapport, really. It's not the best one either. It's the one that calls them at the right time when they're ready. It's the one that calls them at the right time when they're ready. And so if I call them consistently for 3 months, or the 4th month, I don't call them, the other person calls them, who's going to get it? The other person. So that's why consistency matters in the back end for follow-up. You guys with me on this? And we're really bad on a nurture game on the seller side for long term, right? Because we have so many. We've just got to make sure we're really good on this, and we're hammering this. Same thing on the buyer side, making sure you're hitting them ready. So now, how do I do this? What's the question of when do I need to call, right? Get there a lot. When do you need to call them? So here's the thing. If they say they're further than 30 days out, what do you do? I cut whatever time they say in half. So I put 30 plus. You always cut it in half. So if they say 3 months, right? I booked one last week for Jeremy. The guy told me he's not moving until end of June. He's not going to be in town to end of June. And I called him, and guess what he said? I'm in town now interviewing agents. I'm like, what the dude? Thought we were bros. We've been talking all this time, you know? Didn't even tell me you're in town and you're interviewing other agents, right? So with that said, that was kind of being the right place, right time. Thankfully, I was able to book the appointment, right, same day. That's important to make sure you're able to have that, but that's the key about consistency and following up, right? That's the key part there. So now, if they're 15 to 30 days out, how many times you call them? Let's call it 30 days. You're calling 3 times a week. Is that a lot? Right, it is. Why? Because it comes down to the wire. I want them to only think about my name, and I want to win that consistency game at the back end. The good news is most agents aren't following up consistently like they should. They don't have structure, education, or system and process to do so. All right? If they're 14 days or less, right, I mean they're coming in town soon, what do I need to do? 4 to 5 times a week, which like Tim said is almost every single day. Now, what do I say in those days? Tim, just following up and make sure we're on track when you come in town. I'll make sure I have everything together for you, that you have everything you need to make the best decision when you're here. Rather be houses, right? Do you know which ones are your final, give me your top 6, your top 15. I can get those lined up for you, right? Make sure we get you lined up with lender. On the seller side, hey, make sure we get something scheduled for you guys are in town. I'll pull in the comps, have a detailed mini appraisal for you when you're in town. I'm bringing what there? Value. That important? That makes sense, you guys? And so that's what I'm looking at. Now, I want you guys to write this down. You will never lose a qualified and motivated lead by following up too much. You'll never lose a qualified and motivated lead by following up too much. What does that mean?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
If they get off, right, they're not truly motivated. Okay? Now, you can come across wrong, then that's a problem. Does that make sense? And so what do? I've talked this a lot on the seller side. I get the question a lot. Do you think you're calling them too much? Yeah, I want to call them too much. Because that's the only way they're ever going to remember me. Say again, I want to call them too much because that's the only way they ever remember me. And so what do I say if they start, like, dude, you're calling me like crazy? You guys hear me?
I have it written down on the index card sitting in front of me.
Yeah.
It was something like, you don't want to work with an agent who doesn't have, who's not professional enough to follow up with you. So, something along those lines.
Yeah, and I've even say, hey, Jeremy, last thing I'm gonna do is forget about you. You know, I'm never gonna let you slip through the cracks, Jeremy. I care about you and care about the outcome enough. I'm gonna follow up enough and as much as it takes to make sure you know I'm here for you when you're ready. That's it. So I can say, hey, Jeremy, you know what? I appreciate that, but guess what? I'm never gonna let you fall through the cracks. Any agent that's true professional is gonna follow up with you enough to make sure you're well taken care of and you have everything you need. Is it okay with you if I follow up with you to make sure you have everything you need? Yes. Do you think it's a bad thing if somebody follows up with you to get you everything you need? No. And just have the right tonality, the right energy. Does that make sense? And it's like, yeah, you call too much. Yes, I do call too much. You know why? I want you to know that I'm your only guy you need here in Myrtle Beach when you're ready. And guess what? If you think I follow this much for you now, guess how hard I work for you once I get your business. Right? You just make that your advantage. Whatever the thing is, that's why they should use you. Does this make sense? Hey, you'd rather call you a lot because that's who I am and I'm aggressive and follow up. Do you want an aggressive agent when you actually have somebody sell your house, or you want somebody playing golf 3 days a week? It works. And all of a sudden, what do? I shift their worldview from being suspicious to, wow, this is my guy. Make sense? And it's the right language in how you do that. But there's no such thing as follow up too much if you do it right and they're motivated. Does that make sense? Questions about that? Scott, what are your thoughts on that? Have you got anybody experience that yet?
No, I mean, that's good because I was like questioning if I was calling people too much.
Never.
No.
And just like, let's say I'm like, Scott, you're calling me too much. What do you say?
I just want to make sure you're getting full service.
Okay. Yeah, still a lie.
Yeah. That I'm here and I'm your only guy when it comes time to sell your home.
Yeah, see, absolutely, Scott. You're right, I'm calling you. If I have a rapport, right? Absolutely, Scott. Of course I'm calling you too much. You know why? I'm never going to let you slip through the cracks, man. Those other agents you talk to, guess what? They've already given up. Guess what I don't do? Give up ever. And so when you pick a guy to sell your house, which one you want? The guy playing golf 3 days a week, or one the guy that calls you every day? Which one's going to get you a buyer more likely? Right, I am. So whenever you're ready, I'm your guy. Is that right? Yeah. And now what happened? I turned this guy who was like angry into like, he got on the phone like, dude, this guy's crazy, right? That's what you want. If it's done right. Okay? So does that make sense? Yeah. So a couple things, couple do's and don'ts. Number one, do, when you're following up people, what's the most important thing you think? Obviously, we're assuming you have the right organization down, but like you got to make sure your CRM is dialed in, dialed in, dialed in. You got to be machined with this because you can't remember to follow up consistently everybody unless you have a system in place, right? Number one, do have energy. What does that mean? Like you got to be like the guy or the girl on the phone, like, wow, this person is charismatic, right? They're strong on the phone. Their tonality is good. You have to have ups and downs, and that's got to be super important when you follow up because that pulls them in, and that's what builds the energy, right? If I'm just like playful a little bit, it makes a difference in how the follow-up goes. Does that make sense? Number two, assume the sale. What does that mean?
Act like you already got the
I'm assuming I'm your guy already. Tim, of course I'm calling you. I'm your guy in Myrtle Beach, man. I'm going to out-call everybody. You know why? I want your business. All of a sudden, he's like, well, okay. That makes sense. Right? Does it make sense justified? Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's just super important to do. And if they're like, well, dude, you're calling me too much. Hey, Tim, do you want a consistent agent or you want somebody who's an agent? Just a simple one-liner question's all you got to pick up. Okay? Super important. Number three, this is important too. You must close more than one time. What does that mean? You don't get no's multiple times. You got to close. I got to ask for that appointment 3, 4, 5 times. That's okay. I might not get him the second time. Guess what? I'm going to give him third time. And this is where all that money's made up. I mean, it's so simple to do, right? And the good news for you guys, you have leads. You know what cold call people do? They cold call a whole neighborhood of just random people. And they may get 1 out of 100 who says, yeah, I might sell in 6 months. To get their information, what do they think they do? They nurture them and 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 nurture them. They have to call them every single week until they're ready 6 months from now. If they do that every single day and you cold call and get yelled at, right, 15 times a day, but you get one person a day, over 6 months, what do you think happens? They start to build a pipeline of people who are potentially ready in the future, right? That's why they nail that. We're so spoiled by just active leads that we don't consistently follow up with them like we should and nurture them like we should. Does that make sense? And so you have an advantage because these are ready, willing people who raise their hand to us. Just do the part of following back up. Make sure you're hitting that part. Okay? Number two things. Super important. Number one, don't be attached to the outcome. What does that mean? Here's the crazier part. Joe, what happens if you call and they yell at you? But what happens if they say, hey, F you, Joe, and hang the phone up?
I call right back.
Yep. And what can you do even then if they call back and say, dude, quit calling me? What can you do? What have you done multiple times before?
I actually have converted many people.
You call them back the same day later on. They don't even remember you're the same person.
Oh, yeah. Back in the morning, if they still are not receptive, I wait till the end of the day and I call them back, and most of the time I convert them.
Yeah. Same person. They don't even know it's you, the same guy calling.
Yeah, they don't even remember.
Yes, I already spoke to somebody in your company earlier.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was, man. That wasn't me.
They'll ask straight up, was it you? And I'm like, no, this is the first time I've called.
Yeah.
You must have me confused with somebody else.
Yeah.
Why? Because people need that as humans. It breaks down the barrier a few times. And so now if I call them today and get yelled at, guess what I'm doing on Friday or on Thursday? Call him again. Joe, what's up, man? It's Blake from Myrtle Beach. How you doing? And he's thinking like, is this the guy or is this not the guy, right? I don't care if he does because my tonality leads that, right? And my energy leads that, and he or she's going to mirror that based on how I come across to them. Does that make sense? And when I call them my follow-up calls, I am their best bro from Myrtle Beach. They're thinking like, who is this guy? But my energy says that, right? My tonality says that. And that's something that I've always been really, really good at, thankfully, just learning that the hard way. I don't wing it. What does that mean? A lot of people blow it because you make your second, third, fourth calls, and they sound like, because, hey, Blake from Myrtle Beach. How you doing, man? You still making a move? Okay. Anything I can do? Nope. Okay. Have a good day, right? And so what happened? You didn't bring any value. You didn't differentiate yourself at all, and you didn't actually show yourself through the actual trust, the rapport, and the really, I call it authority frame, which is obviously they respect you. Does that make sense? And so what I bring something to the table, I follow the script like this, and that makes a massive difference. You guys with me on that? So super important piece there with that. Questions about that? You guys have the link to the script, okay? Print it out. There's a couple different ones on there. One's they call the Move Your Booty one, which is a little bit faster one. It just says, that should say like, you can kind of get them going faster. There's a couple different words to say, I'm curious, what have you heard occurred on a local real estate market last 90 days? And they'll say, oh, whatever. And then you repeat back to them and, hey, let me share with you what's actually occurring in our local market right now and why it's a huge benefit to you. And so I can use that for a seller. I can say, hey, actually, inventory levels have dropped, gone up, whatever. Days on market is actually down this month versus last month. Jeremy, so properties are selling faster than they were before. And the number of sales for pending deals has actually gone up to the roof, right? Biggest week we've had since March 2024. Do you think that helps or hurts home sellers? Boom, now I can move them into that process using that script, okay? So use this for your second, third, fourth follow-ups. Does that make sense, you guys? Questions about that? Anything? Is that helpful?